Welcome back to Faye's Place, a podcast where dreamers have the liberty to dream. I'm your host, Phaedra, and I am so excited that we have this time to dream together. Today, we're exploring the art of shaping the soundtrack and what it takes to lead orchestras through brilliant performances. From Broadway productions like The Color Purple and Motown the Musical, to working on Respect, the biographical film of Aretha Franklin. Joseph Joubert is a true testament of what it means when the Bible says your gifts will make room for you. Thank you for stopping by Faye's Place. How are you doing, Mr. Joubert?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me on your podcast. This is very exciting. Love it.
Wonderful, I must say. How is your wife? She's one of my favorite vocalists of all times.
Renee is doing great, and we're well. We can't complain. All is good in our lives.
Oh, I love it. Please tell her I said hello.
I will definitely do that.
Take us back to 5-year-old Joseph growing up in Harlem. What did he dream of becoming?
Wow, 5-year-old Joseph. He didn't dream that early. I think my dreams started, I guess, at 7 when I was, my mother, I was in church all the time. So, my dad's a Baptist preacher and my mother played. So we were in church all the time. So I grew up around music. My mother played, my grandfather played. So I do remember hearing my grandfather play the piano. And I guess, like I said, not the 5-year-old, but maybe the 8-year-old, 7, 8-year-old, when I started just plunking in. My mother taught me chopsticks, Mary Had a Little Lamb, and left me on my way. So I don't ask. I taught myself to read the treble clef and taught myself to read the bass clef and was playing by ear. I mean, that's the beginning. That's like the real deal. But I'm trying to think. 5 years old, we were just in church. I probably didn't think music was going to be it. Maybe I wanted to be a fire. Who knows that as a kid? At one point, I did want to be an architect. For some reason, I would get the New York Times, and they used to have like real estate and like the breakdown of like a house and like the floor plan. And I had my bricks. I had what's it called, American brick, which was these 4 Legos. Taking you back, I would do these little things. So that was at one point an interest, but music has basically been my dream since childhood, I would say, for sure.
I love that you said you wanted to be an architect, but now you put the notes together. I love it. Now, you and I, we share a unique history. My grandfather was one of your mentors. Tell my listening audience how that goes.
So, Bayside Community Baptist Church is where my father was called in 1967. So I was a youngster, and at some point, Mr. McDowell came, and he used to be our mailman. And I think my father or my mother realized they knew that he was a musician and said, well, we'd love to have you come and work at the church, because I think our other musicians were about to leave. So Mr. McDowell came and wound up taking over the choirs. And of course, I had just started playing on the Hammond organ, and I was like glued to anybody that was doing music. So I was watching him. And at some point, he had me assist him because he knew that I was learning how to read and I could play when he was doing, I guess it was the young adult choir. And I'll never forget once, I had learned how to play Oh Happy Day. That was like the big thing. I forget.
Yes.
Look up what year that was. So I learned how to play that. And I remember I would always be at rehearsal early. So I was playing that and he walked in. He was like, wow, so I really learned watching him, seeing how he taught the choir, how he, taught the parts, sectionals. And at some point he was ready to leave. And I think I can't remember, I have to look back how old I was when he actually left me with the job. He said, you got it. So yeah, it might have been 13, 14, when he, it was all in my hands and my mother. So I was like, wow, this is a great start. But he was really instrumental in me watching someone, doing music with the church.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that story. And our family loves your family.
We're in tune. It's one big family, but we are very close. Your dad,
yes.
my my brother, my father. Oh, I think my father baptized me, if I'm
That's
not
right.
correct.
Everybody knows that
Yeah.
Reverend Joubert baptized my dad.
Yeah. So, yep, there's our history.
That's so great. Now, what was the moment you realized that you wanted to make music your career?
So I guess early on, as we say, I was played by ear, but then I got a teacher when I was 13, 14 years old, like a private teacher, because I hadn't had private lessons. So I guess at that point, it was about honing this pianistic skill. And I remember going to see a Broadway show. I think my first Broadway show was Your Arms Are Too Short to Box with God. Oh, You Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope. One of those two, like 1973, somewhere in that time frame. And I don't know, it just hit me that somehow I'm going to be involved in music because obviously I went to performing arts high school and then college, Manhattan School of Music. So I knew early on, and actually when I was in college, I was doing recording sessions, so and it was also different styles. I was doing gospel, I was doing classical, I was doing R&B, pop stuff. So, I guess I'm moving ahead too far, but I knew that music was going to be I would say by the time I was in my late teens, it was, for sure. Because, going to college, you have to make a decision. You're like, what's going to be your thing? So I knew that, the question was whether I was going to be just a concert pianist, whether I was going to teach, or whether I was going to have the career that I have now, which is sort of when people ask me, what do you do? I mean, I do, I guess, do everything,
I
which is
do it
crazy.
all.
I do. But people know me Broadway. People know me as an accompanist. People know me as a pianist. I do these classical transcriptions of hymns and spirituals. I'm an orchestrator, so it's one of those hybrid careers. Like the Black Gershwin, I've often told people I'm like, because Gershwin was,
Yes.
did different styles, and he was a composer, he was an arranger, orchestrator, wrote songs. So the answer of your question is yes. I probably by the time I was a teenager knew that music was going to be it.
Yeah, and I love how you brought up you do so many things and you do have a background in the church. Did you ever receive some pushback, whether it's from your family or people in the church, when you wanted to make this a career? Did they tell you, no, you only have to do gospel, you're going to preach, you're going to do this, you're going to do that?
Not that's very interesting. Not at all. Not one. I'm trying nothing from my parents. It was also all encouraging that this is young kids going to do music. So it wasn't really. It's interesting. It was never because I guess going forward. So I used to tour with Ashford and Simpson, and
Yes.
we would do gigs on a weekend. But whenever whatever flight I would get to come back, I'd be getting the early flight to come back to church. So I guess the thing was, as long as they knew that my witness was secure and it wasn't like I was abandoning God. I mean, that my music,
Right.
I don't think there was anything satanic in my music. So, yeah, so absolutely no resistance, just total encouragement, which is an important thing because if I did get resistance, that would have been a negative factor. So I didn't
Yeah.
have any negative factors.
And I love that because even with me, I can witness to the fact that people have always been very encouraging of the gifts we have, in
Hmm.
entertainment. And I know everybody doesn't have that experience, so
Yeah, no.
we are extremely blessed. Now, one of your first Broadway productions was The Amen Corner. How did you get involved with that and what was your role?
Okay, so that was 1983. How did I get Amen Corner? I had done some arranging and some playing for an arranger named Dunn Pearson, who had produced a record that I was involved in with a group called Revelation. And he must have given a guy named Gary Sherman my information because they needed at the time they needed a gospel pianist to play this show because it's a James Baldwin show. James Baldwin is a cousin of ours. I came and played for him. He was like, "Oh, great." So he literally hired me on the spot to be the pianist for the show and assistant musical director at the time, which was already like here I'm my first show and I'm assistant musical director. Now the history of that show, there was a black female conductor named Margaret Harris, who was one of the very few black female conductors we had. So I jumped in big in my first foray. Ruth Brown, the legendary R&B singer, was in the show. Retta Hughes, if you look these people up there, was in the show. Roger Robinson, who was again a TV veteran, was in the show, and a young actor named Chuck Cooper who's big now. Look at his career, and he's got children that are in the field. But so that was my first show. But I got it. It was from a recommendation from this guy Dunn Pearson, who actually wound up being the orchestrator with Gary Sherman. And yeah, that was 25-year-old Joubert.
That's wonderful. Do you have an idea for a business, but bringing it to fruition seems so overwhelming? Look no further. Emboldened Consulting is a strategy and creative consulting agency that turns bold ideas into thriving ventures. When rebranding my podcast Phase Place, I needed direction and someone who gets it, who gets me. I tried Emboldened Consulting and was not disappointed. The results I received showed that there was close attention to detail and gave me insight of what I needed to make my business work. You have the vision. Let Emboldened Consulting help you execute the dream. Their services include strategic messaging and branding development, operational strategy, project management, and marketing campaign design. Email Jody Iyamu at emboldenedconsulting.com. That's JODIIYAMU at emboldenedconsulting.com to set up your consultation today. Use the code PhasePlace to receive a free consultation. So walk us through a day in your life as a sought-out pianist and Broadway conductor. I know no 2 days look the same, but give us a general idea.
Okay, so it can be from A to Z. Okay, so last year was a crazy busy year. So at one point, I was in Rochester as musical supervisor, orchestrator, arranger for the Wiz tour. At one point while I was out, I knew that when I left there, I was going to be coming back to be the MD and orchestrator for Pirates of Penzance, which was on Broadway. So there's this overlapping thing. And then with Pirates, at one point I had to leave and go to London to orchestrate Disney's Hercules. So when you ask, like, what is my day like, it could be, and I'll add to that. So then in London, I get a call that I have to do the Tony Awards and do an arrangement for Cynthia Erivo. So I'm in London with Hercules, orchestrating Tony Award arrangement for Cynthia Erivo, and have to still come back to New York and finish conducting Pirates, because I had taken a little leave.
Wow.
And finish it up. So that's, or it could be a day where I'm in rehearsal with an opera singer, and in the evening I'm playing, for the Broadway choir, for inspirational voices. Or it could be a day where I'm conducting a recording session, or like I said, or conducting a show. Or it could be a day where I'm home practicing just at the piano, preparing. All right, so this week I'm preparing to perform Saturday at Geffen Hall for Donald Lawrence. He's got me featured, so I'll be working through my Total Praise.
Yay!
So I'm practicing this week as a piano week.
Yes. Listen, practice makes perfect.
Listen, it never stops.
And I wanted to tell our listening audience that they probably saw you at the celebration of life of Richard Smallwood.
Yes.
That was you. Yes.
Yeah,
it was brilliant. It was so brilliant. We was looking at the TV like, we know him.
So the thing is, Richard and I knew each other for years. We never really, our paths didn't really cross. When I did my first CD, my Total Praise, I sent it to him and he thanked me. So we had a distant type relationship. But when they were honoring him at Yale in 2024, they asked me would I come and play, and that was the first time I actually played with him in the audience. And
wow.
It was sad because he was already in a wheelchair, but I was actually able to go up to him and tell him how much his music has meant to me. So that was a real cathartic time for that to happen. And then on the strength of that, the family asked would I, play for the service. So,
amazing. Yeah. Now, was that nerve-wracking having him in the audience?
It was, but Total Praise, it's in my bones. And for me, it was, I wanted to give it to him, give it back to him, as opposed to being nervous. I mean, whenever I perform, I'm nervous, but it was a nervous excitement.
Nice.
To
yeah.
share. Yeah.
And we had a chance to meet meet Richard Smallwood, and he's just the nicest
Oh,
guy.
just
I
great.
was about 3 or 4 years old, and we was at maybe it was Howard, no Hampton,
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
he set me on the piano. We was just
Wow.
literally alone in the room, and it was like an
Wow.
uncle. It was amazing, and of course,
That's
I never forgot that. So
that's a good for you. Well, very very
yeah.
exciting. Very exciting. Very exciting.
Yes. So, is there a production that stands out to you? I know you've done a million.
I would say the Wiz for me that I did, when did that come out? 2023 was a real full circle moment only because I saw the original and a lot of the original people in the cast I've had experiences with and know and knew. And as an orchestrator, Harold Wheeler was the orchestrator and he was a mentor of mine. So for me to have watched his growth, watched his work, and for me to be the orchestrator for the Wiz, it was a real full circle moment for me. And the fact that it's still touring and that they're going to have a non-union tour this year, so it's been a gift that keeps giving. So I would say between that and the Color Purple. The Color Purple for me was another gift that kept giving because I wound up starting out as the associate conductor, and then before it was over, I wound up doing some arrangements for the actual production. They gave me credit as additional arrangements, which was just another way of saying orchestrations, but you can't use, it's a technicality on Broadway. If you're playing in the show, you can't be the orchestrator.
Oh.
But that was great. And then I wound up for the revival being the orchestrator for that. So those two shows have been an amazing experience. But all of the shows I do are amazing experience. But you did ask me for what was like the one. So I would say
Yes.
those are neck and neck between Color Purple and The
And
Wiz.
and I can imagine, especially being on Broadway and the path that you take, whenever you have a chance to do something for your culture, I know that that just is something that's close to your heart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. The Motown was another big one in that I had some one-on-one with Berry Gordy.
Love him.
Which
Love him. Let me just tell you, if I was alive in the 60s, I would have moved to Detroit, okay? I would have been there.
I actually played chess with Berry Gordy one day in his compound, just the two of us with no handlers, just sitting there playing, and I won.
Oh my goodness, I'm fangirling right now. I love this for you.
So yeah, I mean, so Motown was again, those three. I keep adding on to this, my life, but those are highlights of part of a fun career.
Yes. Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. So, talk about a time when you took a risk and it actually paid off.
You think of it as a risk. For me, it's just you step out there and you do your work, and you hope it gets approved. For me, the Color Purple as the associate conductor and pianist for the show. I mean, my job was just to play piano for the show. So they asked me, the writers asked, could I help them with some orchestrations, so which was not my hired job. So I was allowed to do four charts, and here I am playing the show, and still I think we were still in rehearsals, and there's like was no time like to do it. I mean, I didn't have like a lot of prep, so I had to like figure out, come home right late at night, right during the day, to play the show. So I wound up, I mean, for me, the risk, it wasn't a risk, but it was like, well, can I get this done? That's where my spirituality comes in because I know God is going to always make a way. I'm like, you got me through stuff before, God, give me through this. You didn't give me this talent to leave me hanging.
Right, right.
So the risk, not risk, but it was like, okay, trying to prove myself that I can get these done. So I wound up doing the opening of the Sugar Avery song, the Color Purple song, and then I'm Here. No, Push the Button was the one I did. So those four, and they wound up being like the big numbers of the show.
I love
So
it.
it was like, okay, he's got to prove yourself. All right, gonna get this done. Anytime I'm having to do orchestration for a show, it's like, am I gonna get this done in time? Even last year for Pirates of Penzance, I had no idea I was gonna get it done in time because it was just, again, I was conducting the show, I was in rehearsals, and had to get it done for orchestra rehearsal time. So that's the tricky thing about being an orchestrator for Broadway, is that in the show too, playing there's not a lot of time. But if you're just orchestrating, you get more time. But last year it was like racing the clock, but I was able to, with God's help. Get it done.
Yes. You know, as people say, won't he do it?
Yes, yeah, yes, he will. I'm a
Yes,
witness.
he, yes, he will. Pursuing your dream is hard enough. You might as well look good while you're doing it. Like I always say, when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you do good. Embodied Apparel is all about doing good for the community. It provides quality statement apparel and opportunities for firsthand social and civic engagement. My favorite part is not only are the t-shirts soft and comfortable, but they are printed by Turn 90, which is a nonprofit that provides therapy and job placement to men creating a new direction after prison. Now that's a dream I can get behind. Shop now at embodiedapparel.com, and for a 10% discount on your purchase, please use the code FazePlace. What advice would you give to aspiring Broadway conductors?
Generally, you don't start off as a conductor. Usually, what happens, you wind up, you're a pianist first, or you're a play in the pit. You have some kind of sense of Broadway. But I mean, if you're going to conduct, you got to get some conducting lessons. You got to have some vocal experience to know how to be at the helm, to be able to teach the parts. That's where church came in good for me. So whether you're in school for conducting, whether you're in school for, because there's no real degree. You can go, right? I mean, you can go to school for a company, you can go to school for conducting, you can go for choral conducting, you can go for orchestrations, but being an MD, it really incorporates like all of that. So I would say you should immerse yourself in all types of music, Broadway, conducting, choral work, work with ensembles, singers know how to voice works. Just to say you're Broadway conductor, that's really an MD, and that MD, shapes a show, with a musical supervisor. But yeah, get as much learning and these days you can internet, you can listen and learn scores, listen to different styles of music, be prepared, because you never know if you're gonna get like a Sondheim show or something newer, like Jason Robert Brown or whether it's going to be a Richard, Rodgers and Hammerstein. So I would say you try to be versatile, learn a lot of styles of music and just be good at it too. That's the other thing. A high level will get you far.
Wow, I love it. I love it. Now, we talked about how busy this industry can be. It's filled with hectic schedules. How do you practice self care? What do you do for fun?
So Renee and I, we have a really, really nice media room, and we Netflix. We watch series. That's our chill out time. Or we love fine dining. When I'm trying to be in shape, I walk or either treadmill or walking. Travel. Fun things like that. We have a cat, Mozart, so he's a
Oh,
fun a
I
fun
love
a
that your
fun.
cat is named Mozart.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, he's great. It's hard not to be around music, but there are times when I just don't want to go to the piano. I don't want to listen to music, just to kind of shut that out. But you can't because it's just around you. Even if you're watching a movie, there's music in a
I
movie,
know, right?
so you can't really escape it. But yeah, we enjoy, like I said, just our media room and fine dining and dining with friends, family.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you said that you have a media room. So, what's one of your favorite shows that you're looking at, or a Broadway show, something that you didn't work in?
I just went to see Wild Party, which is at Encores, because I'm going to be conducting a little plug here. I'm going to be conducting La Cage at Encores with starring Billy Porter and Wayne Brady in June. So I wanted to see what my competition was. So I went to see the Wild Party, which I really did enjoy. It was a lot of fun. Shamefully, I don't get to see as many shows as I should because I'm just busy and I don't take the time to do that. But I should see more shows to really know what's happening out there. We enjoyed Wicked, because knowing Cynthia Erivo and watching her, both Wickeds, those were fun to see. But to say I have a favorite, I don't really
Oh,
have a
Wicked
favorite.
for Good.
That's what I was trying to say. Wicked for good. Yes, you're good. You're quick.
What are you currently dreaming up? Some things you want to still achieve.
So I still, I've done two CDs. I've got about three or four more CDs to do. And for me, it's just a matter of taking time out, like shutting down for 2 months, 3 months, and just practice and without distractions. So those are projects that are upcoming. I've got three or four, and I do have a big project that I want to see done at some point. When I was sick back in 2016, all I had time was to write. And so I wrote a bunch of pieces around spirituals, and they were spirituals with piano, orchestra, and voice, choirs, soloists. I have to orchestrate that, but that's something that's going to be like in a 2 year span. I'd love to have that premiered at like Carnegie Hall or something like that. So that's like a project. I mean, it's a dream, but I mean, I will fulfill it. I just have to do it. In addition to those CDs, I mean, I've done. People ask you your bucket list. I've done like so many fun things. It's not a lot
I've done the bucket list. No.
I mean, I've had shows on Broadway. I've had like two shows at once. So for me, the piano is my first love. So I want to get these other CDs out, and that's the next bucket list thing to get done. And then this concert, this spiritual concert.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. I know you will achieve all those goals. Keep us posted. Now, if people want to follow you on social media, how can they do that?
So I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm not a TikTok or a Twitter, so per se, but I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, and shamefully, I don't have a website. You youngins have that kind of stuff. I've just been like word of mouth. People just know me and they find me.
And I want to encourage everybody to get his music, look him up on YouTube. He is absolutely amazing. So thank you for stopping by Faye's Place.
Thank you, Phaedra, and hugs to the family, all the crew.
Yes, and you're welcome back anytime. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode and what we're doing here at Faye's Place, be sure to give us a great rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Tune in next week for another episode with you in mind. I love you all for listening. This podcast episode was recorded with Riverside. Hi friends, it's Phaedra, and you are listening to Faye's Place. Join us each week as we talk to industry insiders about their journey and what it takes to turn dreams into a reality. Whether you aspire to be in the entertainment field or just inspired by the hustle, count this as your backstage pass. Join us every Monday for a brand new episode. And also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Faye's Place.